So I've got some questions first, and then I've got a whole bunch of stuff. My talk that I'm going to give is called Always Be Testing. But first I have questions. So, Ryan's over there. Great. So this gentleman in the back, Ryan, is going to be speaking after me, and he needs this input as well, so I'm going to jump right into it. So the first question is, how many of you are doing A/B testing? All of you? Almost. Okay, some of you are not. I saw that. Any expressions, I'll catch them, please, but I'll pick on you, so watch out. Okay, that's good. How many tests are you running a week? 1. And keep your hands up as I go up. 1, okay. 2. Okay, a week, right? 3. Okay, how about once a month, starting over? 1 a month? Who's doing 1 a month? Like everybody that also did 1 a week? Yeah. 2 a month? Okay, so would this sound accurate that y'all know what A/B testing is, you're kind of doing it, there's a bunch of reasons why you're not doing enough of it? Is that the sentiment generally? And some of you are not doing it, but that's very few of you. Okay, great. So this talk's going to be super great on that level. And what about traffic? Like, or actually first, mobile app, web app. So mobile app. Okay, cool. Yeah, you two are screwed. Okay, web. Okay. Other. All right. Okay, great. That's helpful. So mostly web, good. So you tools like Optimizely. Who's using Optimizely? Okay. Anybody using anything else for A/B testing that's a tool that's not yours, like not in-house? No? Okay, in-house. Anybody doing anything in-house? Like building your own stuff for A/B testing, any of that? All right, cool. Great. Anything I missed, Ryan?
Any e-commerce?
Oh, e-commerce, yeah. Selling stuff online, but not SaaS subscription. Not subscription, e-commerce, maybe e-commerce subscription. Okay, what about like SaaS? Like a web app, people sign up, crap like that. Yeah, kind of. Marketplace? Marketplace. I like those. Those are great. Lots of problems. Lots of testing to do. Okay, cool. Anything else, Ryan?
I think that's good.
All right, thanks. So first I'm going to talk about kind of this thing. Let me bring it over there. I went to the gym today, and I've been to the gym about literally, I want to say 15 times in my life. And this was about the, let's see, I want to say 11th time in the last 3 months. So I've been to the gym 4 times. I'm almost 35. Okay? And this thing right here that I'm going to show you and talk about is what got me to the gym. And you're going to ask me how the hell this relates to A/B testing. But I promise it does. And first of all, everyone knows you can't grow. A/B testing helps you grow, but you can't grow without like product market fit, right? So these folks, they have product market fit with me, right? And I'll tell you the comment in a second, but it's really funny. But anyways, so the key to this whole thing is this little dashboard thing. And I was impressed because I just started Googling it today. Like, I don't really do deep research if I like something. If I like it, someone forces me to try it, whatever. So my wife is really cheap. In December, she said, you need to take these 3 classes, and I got really pissed off, right? Because she can dictate my weekend time. I'm good with that. But my weekday time, except for maybe in the evenings, because I got 2 kids, you want to hang out with them and whatnot, I gotta do my shit, right? And I do a lot of stuff. Yeah, it's crazy. Anyways. So I don't need anyone controlling that. So I got all pissed off, blah, blah, blah. But I really didn't want to figure out how to go to the gym. But I've been losing a lot of weight recently just with dieting. Not dieting, but like no white things like sugar and carbs and all that. And started losing a bunch of weight. It kind of worked, and I got addicted to it. And I never thought I'd ever go to the gym on any cadence. And now I've got an unlimited monthly plan. And my wife's super cheap. So we're paying like some $100 to $200 on this stuff like a month, right? Both of us. Anyways, so I don't know how this is happening, but they got both of us, and that's like almost impossible on this kind of crap that's good for your body. We're both pretty bad at that. We're not like crazy or anything, but we're pretty bad at that. So anyways, this is the board and you can look at it anytime while you're exercising, and they've iterated. This blew my mind. So this is another board, and it looks a little different, but kind of the same. Great, yeah. We're startups, we iterate, hopefully. This is another one. It's getting closer to the one I used today, right? And here's another one. This is the final one. This is the one I used today, right? And I'm just going to explain it. So at that gym, I would say it's like less than 1,000 square feet, split exactly in half like this. You walk in, it's a reception area, some locker type stuff, cubbies. And on the other half, it's like, their logo looks like HubSpot's too. It's kind of funny. And the color is the same. And the owner of the one I go to, he's got like this orange hot rod that he just posts up right in front in the valet spot, as I call it. It's great. Anyways, I haven't bothered him about stuff yet. So this monitor, it's there, and you have 3 things on that side, and you go in there for an hour, and they run you through a workout, and basically every time it's different. Like you don't feel like you're doing the same thing, no matter when you go, it's just different. But the structure is this. There's three areas. There's a rowing machine, there's a treadmill. By the way, does anyone know about Orange Theory? Awesome, great. So you're the one that's been smirking. You kind of know about it, but you're skeptical. Awesome. Or that's just your look. That's cool. Anyways, there's 3 machines: rowing, treadmill, and like free weights where you can do like push-ups and stuff, which I suck at. You can always look at this board. And the cool thing about this board is there's basically 5 colors, and all of these are represented, right? So they tell you have to be in the orange zone for 12 to 20 minutes of the whole exercise, right? And they're not prescriptive, so they don't tell you, they give you options. Like if I'm on the treadmill, I don't run on the treadmill. I get out of breath. I think my lungs are small or something's wrong with me. I don't know, right? So I make that incline all the way up to like, they say 5 or 6 if you're a power walker, and I'll kick it up to 10 or 11, right? And then I'll do my speed at like 3.5 or 4 when I see people at like 7, 8, 6, 5, whatever, 9. And I can't kick it higher, but it's cool. But I can get these metrics. They tell me what they are. This color coding helps me understand it, which I am going to explain because it's pretty killer. And I can go to the gym, and I like it. And it's a framework, and it allows me to do things. And this is what testing's about. Creating your framework to keep testing all the time and knowing whether you're getting there or not and what you need to do. So this is the lesson in this. I just jumped to it. But now let me explain the framework. It's brilliant. So they have these 5 colors. Gray means like you're not doing shit. I think that's in gray over there, that 41%. Right? And if you notice, there's some people in red and orange. So anybody that's not in red and orange is basically slacking at this time. And you instantly know that. You're not, if you're competitive, maybe you're competing with other people, but this thing is not about that. It's about yourself and getting those they call them splat points, which are being in the orange and the red, right? So this person, Evelyn, actually Aaron, is probably the highest. If they see you over 100, because you can get over 100 on that, they'll ask you if you've been there a long time. They're like, hey, you doing okay and whatnot, because that's kind of crazy. I don't get in the red often, but I get in orange. Today I had like 28 splat points, which is like the most I've ever had. And it was very interesting. But so anybody in the green, they're just at base pace, they call it. So they're just kind of relaxing, kind of doing aerobic exercise. They should be able to do it for a while. But anybody that's got it, into the orange or the red, they're in that zone of the ones that they say you need for 12 to 20 minutes during the exercise. And the reason they say that is there's something called EPOC or something. I'm going to butcher all of this because I don't care about the details. It just worked for me. But it's really interesting in the context of A/B testing. Everyone I know that's successful at A/B testing has created some kind of framework like this. Something that resembles a framework to help them know where they're at, where they're going, and what's important. Right? You look at some of the old stuff from Square, how they had monitors with dashboards. Many of you might have that on engineering teams or like in some Gecko board as a home page on your Chrome stuff, all that. That's all the similar concept. But for A/B testing, this is even more critical because it's actually things you can do directly to manipulate those numbers in the right direction. Right? So anyways, this is really instantaneous, and it's like very easy to understand as you're doing it, and you'll know what zone you need to be in. And they have different levers, and you can instantly, by yourself, easily customize it for yourself. Because even the weightlifts are weightlifts. The hardest thing, and it's probably why I got so many splat points today, is the rowing machine, in my opinion. Because my legs and all that, like that shit's crazy. And it's easy to fuck it up and use your arms too much, and oh God. And I've had people stop doing it because they said that they're doing it the wrong way, but that's like a brand problem, but that's like 1 in probably, I think, 10 people. So I don't think it's a big deal. Anyways, this thing has product market fit with people like me. And then I was explaining this to someone, and they're like, oh, you're like a female, right? And I'm like, yeah, I've gotten that before, at least in my thinking, right? And I think, it was one of my friends, and he was he's right, because it's 70% women in here. Like at every one I've been to, that's about the range. I don't know about the one you go to, but it's that. As long as it's one other dude, I'm cool, you know? But even then, whatever, because like it's a system, it's very personal, it doesn't even matter, right? But so he was saying that, and the reason he was saying that is his analogy was men prefer competition. Anybody that knows about psychology, they can prove this out or whatever. I don't care, he was just telling me this crap, right? I haven't looked into this. But men prefer competition, and women prefer frameworks and structure and variety. This is framework, structure, and variety, basically, like in a nutshell. Right? It's almost perfectly designed. I don't know how the hell they did it. And you can see that they iterated. So anyway, there's a bunch of lessons here. I wanted to start there because I don't want to talk about A/B testing tactics. And you know, there's a bunch of stuff that I would tell many of you that are getting into this stuff or even like trying to do it in a modern time right now. Like I have a new company. I'm pretty much in the same boat as you are in many ways with my company. And these are the things that we're thinking about. So that's what I'm going to get into here. So now I'm going to get into it. I talk pretty fast, as you all know. I'm happy to answer any questions about that or anything else, even content marketing. I'll probably only stick to A/B testing for the talk. Anyways, why A/B test? This is a Hugh McLeod little cartoon. He's like a tech cartoonist, pretty awesome. But basically, it sums up what I just said, right? Growth, it's not even a strategy. It's actually like a result you're trying to get. And if you don't have that kind of monitoring, that kind of framework, that kind of structure, you're not going to get there. And I implore you that the earlier you implement stuff like this, the faster you're going to grow. Whenever you need to grow or with whatever you need to do, regardless of whether you have product market fit yet or not, there's always a metric you can be looking at. So I want to make that clear. If anyone has questions on metrics before product market fit, happy to talk about it. I might get into it in the talk. We have this value at Kissmetrics. I'm no longer involved in the company, own some percentage of it. There's a CEO running it. We'll see what he can do. But this is one of my favorite values, which is be better than yesterday, right? And this is really, to me, what growth is all about, and why you want to be A/B testing. I'm just going to talk through some of the improvements. I mean, by now, you folks have read case studies of things like this. So we had a 40% improvement on activation through this similar process, 45% on a feature page of increase in signups, 64% to credit card payment. This is a very big step function in this business because it's a free trial business. It's called Crazy Egg. I've been running it for about 11 years. And everybody just signs up online. So this kind of improvement is literally a dramatic impact on the business. Like in some amount of time, we were able to double the revenue after this test. And this was just through the same process I'm going to describe and the same kind of thinking. Another one is this, which is another improvement we did that was also on the credit card page. That was another doubling. So if you think about that kind of compounding, it's ridiculous, and it creates growth. It's that simple, right, in terms of the concept. And that's why you want to be structured about it. This is another reason. So in a certain period of time, these are like signups over time at Kissmetrics over like a 12-month period. We kind of had a lull, and it was literally just failed experiments. It wasn't that we weren't experimenting. We just had a battery of just failed ones because we had some people get switched out, and our structure wasn't good enough, and we weren't doing the things that I'm talking about right now. So we literally didn't grow for a quarter of the year. That sucks. And it was in a key metric. And then usually I get angry. So got angry probably month 3, because sometimes it takes time when all this other crap is going on in a startup. And then we started really like focusing on it, right? Like, and it wasn't an issue of talent. It wasn't an issue of people like not knowing what to do. It was an issue of structure, framework, and things like that. All the boring crap. But that's the stuff that makes this thing work. And the reason is only one out of 5 of your tests win. This is pretty common knowledge now. We had gotten the rate realistically up to this, but we got the rate up to this, and we were doing like, I want to say dozens of tests a week. I would say more, depending on what you count as a test. But we also had a decent amount of volume. We're not a consumer business, but we had up to over 1 million page views a month. So we were able to do that, but we also were able to split up because we had a web app, we also had a mobile app at the time, and we had like our website, and then we had our blog. So there's a lot of tests you can run. These frameworks helped us do that and get the kind of growth we wanted in the business. This is a famous test I've talked about that we've done. I'm going to go through it pretty quickly. We got a 314% improvement on sign up after running a series of tests. I'm not going to get into them in detail, but basically we made people authenticate with Google. That was a big bump. We tweaked the copy on the page. That's why it says log in with Google. Seems weird to you, but it works the best and gets us the most money. The form field was something we didn't want to add because it was one of the last tests we did, and then I was actually sitting on a toilet. And I was like, let's just add a form field. And which one would it be? We're already getting their email after they do the button and authentication, so let's go ask for their URL. And that's been a pattern we've used a lot because that bump is pretty sticky because you get something personalized about them and they get invested in it. And then the bottom one is like one of the worst ones for me, which is I usually don't like, at that time I didn't like stuff on the page just because this was a few years ago and there was a lot of pages with lots of stuff. So if you had a page with not so much stuff, it looked more unique and it was more memorable. And we wanted to make it look like Google Analytics because of that unfortunate tagline. And we started testing the links at the bottom, and we found one that got us an 11% increase. Because basically, if you're not giving people enough info, you got to give them an out, right? But you don't need to make it prominent, right? And you can test it. So that's what we did. And we tested other things like case study blocks and crap like that, and nothing worked compared to this configuration. But that doesn't mean you should do it. This was a result of a process. But we tried probably, these are 4 tests. We probably tried, I want to say, somewhere in the range of 20 tests, depending on how you count what a test is. And this is the key takeaway. Back to the Orange Theory thing. Remember, I've gone to more gym sessions than I ever have in my life, by order of magnitude, basically, at this point, compared to before, because of just a process, not tactics. And I'm going to keep going. This doesn't work anymore. Sorry, Bitly's fucked. This book's great, Lean Analytics, but it's for the geeks. So a lot of the stuff I'm going to talk about is covered in this book, but it's for the geeks. So what that means is it's like very dense. And if you want to get all like whiteboardy and all that about it, which is, there's a time for that. I'm down with that. This book's really good for that. If you need to convince someone or want an engineer to read something, then they don't understand growth yet or whatever, great, right? I'm not picking on engineers. Designers are worse. Just kidding. This is why I'm knocking it, although my friends wrote it and it's great. But they got flow charts like this. This shit scares me if I didn't make it. So this is a 4-step process I came up with. And again, I've given this talk before that's not like this, that talks about the same process with a lot of tactics and how we did one of those improvements. So I can link to that, or they can link to that. But what I'm going to talk about is all that process stuff, all the boring stuff, and the things you folks are going to need to get to eventually if you end up growing your businesses in the next few months and onwards. And you can take an MVP version of this and implement it, no problem. I'm happy to help any of you. So like I said, won't explain the analytics reports. There's lots of them, and it sucks, and there's videos on them, and there's lots of companies you could use. My favorite right now, just because they're the most startup-friendly, is Amplitude, right? That's not a sponsorship. Yes, I have an analytics company. Everyone has their customer segments. Amplitude's great because they give you more free than anyone else currently, and that's what a startup needs, free shit, right? And the reports are pretty good, too. Anyways, this is one of my sort of tricks. Even if you think you don't have volume, you might have actually more volume than you think. So look for areas like website traffic, even welcome emails. So these are all things you should look for to see where you can test. And your biggest thing is if you took this and said how many people are exposed to this on a weekly basis, exposed to these areas, even if some are page views, others are like emails sent or emails opened or whatever, you'd be easily able to figure out where your biggest opportunity is. Because usually your biggest opportunity for testing is, just on a very simplistic level, is where you have a lot of volume, right? Because you have a lot of people coming through, your test can be statistically significant fast enough, and stuff like that. And there's lots of calculators for statistical significance and all that if you want to read up on it, but I'm not going to go over that stuff. My talk's not going to be that boring, hopefully. I like to highlight this because we had a problem where Google started hating on us at Kissmetrics. And they started hating on a whole bunch of other people. And the reason they started hating on everybody and like started tanking everyone's search results, even though we weren't doing anything nefarious, is there was like a whole bunch of sites that had a lot of duplicate content of ours and many other folks on the internet that were very popular. And Google just flipped a switch, or the machine flipped a switch, or who knows. And they said, we're not going to give you as much traffic anymore. And we sat, my co-founder and I had an SEO company before and everything, so we got to the bottom of it. Things are fine, but it was a big hit. And even though we had that hit, at that time, we were still able to grow signups because we were doing very aggressive A/B testing very fast. And we got this kind of growth rate in about 12 months in total from just compounding this and just hammering it consistently doing it. So the hypothesis side, that's about making an educated guess. So I'm just going to give some tactics real quick. One of my favorite things to make an educated guess these days actually is like this product called Full Story, where you can go like watch every visitor session. And I know there's been products out there before like that, but it's a really cool one, and it's designed around finding bottlenecks in your processes, bottlenecks in your funnels, and whatnot. And that can help you figure out what to do. This is something I don't see many startups do. It came from Etsy, or it came from a gentleman at Etsy, and they were doing this. But you want to basically model out what's going to happen, or what could happen, based on some improvement you think you're going to get. And that's just an equation. We end up turning it into a spreadsheet and stuff, but I'll get into that. There's this cool calculator that's really valuable that tells you how long an experiment will take if you put a bunch of variables into it, because that's really important. And that's why you want to think about volume, conversion rates, and things like that. And some of this stuff you might not have answers to, so you want to make a best guess, obviously, when you're starting out. And then I put in a test with something that was high volume, but relatively low conversion rate, and you can see that, or he put in that, sorry, and you can see that that test would take 6 years. And that was one of the experiments they kind of hypothesized about over at Etsy. So this is basically the experiment, this is idea number 2. And this one actually makes more sense. So it's like number of users, the order value, and the resurrection rate, because they were giving it to people who abandoned the cart, basically, right? And so they came up with some estimations around what it was going to do. And right there, on the low end of things, they'd sell 8,000 more in product per day. And now remember, they haven't done anything here. All they've done is like found some numbers that they already have, most likely in some database or some analytics tool, and then did some math and compared different ideas or areas that they had that they could improve. So as you start getting to scale and then you start growing, these are the kind of problems you're going to hit. So if you can start being this deliberate even now, then when you get to that scale, you already know what to do. Many of us didn't back in the day, and even in the last couple of years. And now, like, you don't really have an excuse to be structured because there's lots of templates, lots of things, and the ideology is there now. This is a way to prioritize your experiment. It's called the PI framework or something, and you get a PI score on potential, importance, and ease. So this is what you do even before you run any tests. You come up with the tests you could run, and then you hypothesize, or not even hypothesize, you prioritize them based on some criteria, right? How long is it going to take for engineering to do it? What's the expected outcome? There's a version of this on steroids that we did at Kissmetrics, where we took the equation, and then we took we took the equation and we turned it into all the way down to our MRR increases. And so we were able to tell just what we thought we would be able to increase our MRR by some of these tests, just based on expected return and all that. And you'll see some of the numbers are the same. That's because we're just estimating, because at the time of this one, we didn't know. And then over time, as you test, you can actually put in actuals. Even like 1 or 2 actuals, and you're actually cruising, and you're much better at doing this. So, but if you don't do that, then you're just testing your test data is in some like a tool, and nobody knows what the hell happened, right? So that's why even before you test, start with something like this and figure out where to prioritize. This is about experiments. I said I won't show you how to set up experiments, so I won't. That's a pretty basic thing. Many of you are using Optimizely. This is just a tactic. Many of you know what AA tests are? Cool. So when we start doing a new A/B testing process, a new tool or something, we'll just literally run the same thing against the same thing, just to see if the conversion rate is still the same. Because if it's not, something's wrong, right? Probably with the fucking tool, or maybe your website. But usually it's the tool. Not the ones I built, though. Of course not. Yeah, it's a very good thing. Yeah, that's just my kid when she was a baby. But that's what you'll feel like if you find these problems and you are relying on that system. That's why you do this first. It's like one of the most important things. And this is the other thing it can teach you it can show you. If you know your conversion rate over time, the AA test will already start telling you things you need to know. Such as, are conversion rates higher on the weekend or on weekdays, and how does that impact a test, right? If it tanks down, right, or goes up, you need to know. If you have any like seasonal variability, these kind of things can help you do it. We've even run AA tests for like years, just so that we can keep looking at the pattern and see if it changes, because it's the same test, and we do a very small percentage of the users on it. And that's been very interesting. But you basically live and die by things like this and getting data about the patterns of your own traffic and how they change, because then you can determine kind of the art of it, which is when do I stop a test? So there's a lot of general rules about stopping a test. One of my rules is like I like to run it through weekdays and the weekend for most businesses. Some businesses have higher conversion rates on the weekend. Most businesses have lower conversion rates on the weekend though. And some on the weekdays, like some days are better than others. Like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday tends to be better than Thursday and Friday. But some of these things are obvious, but then if you're e-commerce, then it's a whole nother slew of patterns, right? So AA tests help you get those with no effort. Like you're just slapping on Optimizely, you can do it right now and you just start running it. And you just see variability. If you have no tests running, you could be running a test like this right now just to start understanding your traffic so you can start getting informed on what you're gonna need to do next. This is one of my favorites. When I see a long page and someone tells me they haven't really thoroughly tested it, I suggest a sensitivity test. So what that means is you take a long page and then you cut something out, you create a variation out of that, and you test A and B. A is the original, B is the thing with it cut out. Pretty simple. I did a test once because people were debating me about social proof. And so this is an easy example. Like you see a page, it has a bunch of social proof, take it all off and see if it makes a difference, right? That doesn't mean social proof is bad or good when you run that test, but at least you'll be informed to know whether that element mattered or not, right? So this isn't a judgment, it's like data. It's like you can still have social proof, it's cool, but you want to know that it wasn't, whatever you have today isn't effective. That's what's more important than like any judgment. But I get in those discussions because like a lot of times when people have an opinion about what to test, they're judging it, right? They're trying to come to a conclusion. It's like, wait, we need to just step back, come up with all the ideas, prioritize them, and then test them, right? Because like if that person that thinks they're right is wrong, then your business doesn't grow if you go do what they say blindly, right? This is like a core problem in a business, and now we have all the tools to test more things. So just think about that when you're hearing opinion. People get annoyed with me sometimes if they're very opinionated. Because I'm opinionated about that, which is we don't know, right? One of my friends calls it assume you're wrong about everything in a startup. So yeah, again, I won't teach you how to analyze the test results, but I'll talk more about that process and documentation, because that's really what changes the game. We came up with this 9 list. I'll just go through it because it's pretty thorough, but this was after like some iteration, so you could start with a smaller list. So for every test, we'd have a starting hypothesis, dates for when we ran the test, screenshots of everything. So all the variations, before, afters, any kind of changes, just like that screenshot I showed of, you know, this was a page, we took that out, here's what it looks like. I like that better than showing just the before and after. Show me what was removed, exit out, it takes you 2 seconds to do that, and then communicate it like that, because then you can create decks. Decks are important. I'm not like a PowerPoint junkie, but it helps communicate. They're images, they're pretty pictures, right? And people understand those oftentimes better than even documentation. So just because I'm saying it's documentation doesn't mean you can't use pictures if that's better. And they tend to be better. But anyways, expected change. So that one is the one I often see people don't do, which is we're going to test this. Okay, great. Well, what do we expect? And then they don't know. And the reason is when you haven't ran any tests, don't have enough data, you're just going to make it up. And that's okay. At least you made something up and you made a best guess, right? And this is where I usually don't like case studies except for ideas, like, you know, all those A/B testing case studies like that. Like my co-founder is notorious for some of those too. But basically, those are all just tactics that can give you ideas to test, but they can also give you benchmarks on expected return, right, on a test. So those are valuable, but I wouldn't just copy them. I'd test them for yourself. The probability of the change, so how likely is this change to actually have an impact? So there's a little bit of art to that. Again, those two you could skip early on, but I'd recommend having at least number 4, if not number 5. And then screenshots for the analysis so that people can see it, because usually it's in a tool. We used our own tool, so that's great. And then the decision you made. And the last one we added was the last add-on, actually on purpose, but it's basically, what did you learn from the test? Because what we realized is if we don't write that, then anyone can still have any interpretation they want from the test. At least if we put that, then it's like the person that was responsible for that test has to close it out like this once it's done, right? And that also relates to the decision, because usually those two things are related, but that was the one that really changed the game for us, because then when someone else comes in, or if some rambunctious person in the company wants to do A/B testing, you point them to this documentation and say, look, you're going to have ideas. Some of them are old. Just look over there. Doesn't mean we can't test old things, but you better have a good reason, you know? This is one of the key questions that help us a lot. So after we did that and we had all the documentation, we actually found a few things we could turn into like meta documentation. And one of them was taking those learnings and then turning them into checklists for the page, right? So this is an experiment checklist. This isn't that example I gave that I spent some time on about the homepage. This is basically a checklist from it, but it's basically leave the footer links, because my urge is always to remove them. That one actually was for me. Autofocus on the first form field. Yeah, we tested that where like you land on the page and the field's already blinking with the cursor. That shit works. Do not include social proof. Yeah, I have a pet peeve, but we tested out of that. Link to the features page and then login copy on the button. So those are the things we learned that I wouldn't say they're like hard and fast rules, but if you're gonna change those, you're gonna get more scrutiny from somebody at some point in the company. Many would call that like politics or things like that. No, you're gonna get scrutiny because we already learned this, right? And it links to the documentation. This is not politics, this is not anyone's opinion, this is what we learned. And so if you're gonna challenge this, you're just gonna get more scrutiny. Like right now, if we have one form field on the page, only one, and it's not autofocused, you'll see me freak out on any of our pages. If you ever notice that, email me, I'll go freak out at somebody, right? Because like, come on, like it's basic. Right? It works. Like we already learned it. Like we don't need to relearn this crap, right? Because we're going to go test it again, right? And it's better to start with a higher baseline if you already knew this crap. And this was like the biggest problem, which is repeatability, right? Losing the history, losing the knowledge that we gained from our visitors, from our users, from all this experimentation. And that's why I wanted to talk about the boring stuff, because like it's what moves the needle more than anything else. So yeah, this is the 4-step process. It's not a big deal. I've talked about it a lot, and there's a bunch of slides out there about it. You know, if you're not testing, you're not learning. I'm assuming many of you got most of these as I was talking. This one's important, but we have tests running always now. Whether it's an AA test just because we can't come up with another one, or if we can like bold a word or do a sensitivity test, we're always thinking about what's the next test. There's always a list somewhere, and it is more loosely prioritized than like the important tests. But what we found is that in one of our businesses, because most of the traffic is word of mouth, so there's not much like, it's all intent driven, like people talking to each other or direct hits for some reason. We haven't figured out why, believe it or not, but like, it's probably because it's very old. But in that one, even if the tests fail, our revenue keeps going up. But when we don't run tests, the revenue doesn't go up. And we haven't ever been able to figure this out. This business has been running so long that it's the only pattern we've found. So even if the tests are losing, the revenue still keeps going up, even though one by one you look at the tests and they're losing, right? It's most likely an effect that's a little bit harder to measure, which is basically return visitors, exposure time, and all these fancy things, which we haven't needed to look into. But you might notice that with some of your businesses too. But having a test running keeps a discipline of keeping that software fresh, keeping somebody fresh in the company using it, even if it's not like the most important thing right now because you're like working on features or something like that and it's early. Yeah, this is the key. If you don't have a process, there's no way to improve. There's no way to figure out where did we suck, how do we make it better. All those things I mentioned are just things from a lot of the growth lessons we learned, but literally when we get to a point where we need to do this all the time in our businesses, we don't need to do that at QuickSprout quite yet at my new business, but we go straight for all this stuff and start implementing the processes and getting it going. So I'm actually building a new A/B testing tool. If anybody that has a website wants to use it, email me. I'm super excited about it, but I don't want to talk about that. And that's part of Crazy Egg. And then if any of you have questions or I can be helpful, one, I'm a mentor here, that's cool. You'll probably see me push more things to email, worst case a phone call than a meeting, but I'm super happy to help you and I'll answer any question on email. You might need to email twice because I use SaneBox and they won't let it through. So if you don't hear from me in like 24, 48 hours, just email me back. But I mean it, like any of you, just email me, anything. Hardest problems, bring them. But not just this crap. But anyways, yeah, that's what I got. And if any of you have questions, I think we have a few minutes, some time, yeah.